welcome back to the Freedom Path Investors Podcast. We've had a break for a couple of weeks, but we're back and we're talking property management today. One of the areas most investors probably don't like to deal with just as much.
Yeah, landlords for sure. Yeah,
but we've got some experts here today. We've got Phillip DeArte with Real Property Management, Three Bridges Division, and their head of investor relations. Was that right, Mike? Mike Redenbeaux, did I get your title right, Mike?
Yeah.
So you're basically pimping out their business, like you said, right?
Yeah. Promoter.
Yeah.
I just
I'm
want
like
to point
a club promoter for property management.
Nice. Brian sounded like Matthew McConaughey there, starting out. All right.
All right, guys. So we like to just kind of get everybody's background, how you got started in real estate, and you were telling us a little bit here. You guys got brand new business just a year ago, kind of similar to us. So
You want to go first?
we can bond over that for sure.
Plenty to bond over with that. My business partner, Jeff Bina, he's the other part of this. And then we just partnered up with Mike recently.
Yeah. Okay.
But Jeff and I are both from California. He's Southern California from San Diego, and I'm Northern California from Sacramento area. So we ended up working together for several years at a whole different industry. So doing that, we both kind of grew into different partner or areas. So he was a regional operations manager, and I was a regional sales manager. So that's kind of how we meshed together, because he's kind of the nuts and bolts guy, and I'm shiny objects and squirrels type of a guy. But doing that for several years, we worked in that industry for, I don't remember how many he was, but I was in about 10 or 12 years.
Okay.
How'd
you guys end up in St. Louis here then?
Jeff's wife, she is from Union area or out in the boonies. Most people don't. She's actually from Gerald, but nobody knows where Gerald is.
I know Gerald. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Not the first in the place.
Which
But
is funny.
I thought you said you guys were tired of living in sunny Northern California.
Yeah,
And we're like, we need to go somewhere awesome like St. Louis.
Yeah,
right. The thong was just giving me a rash, and so I just quit wearing them all day, every day. So, but no, she's from this area. So she was in the Air Force. She retired after 26 years, but that's how he and I met, because she was stationed in Northern California. Jeff was in the Marines, and they ended up meeting in Italy or on a base somewhere on deployment, both of them. So that's how Missouri and California came together, at least initially. Okay. So
cool.
So you guys gave up Italy, Northern California, and decided St. Louis was the place.
Yes.
It's cash flow heaven. Where else to start a property management business?
Exactly. So, but when she was retiring, the family, the whole idea was for them to come out this way, because her parents own a business and so on in New Haven.
Yeah.
So Jeff and I were kind of fed up with the corporate baloney that was going on. And one day Jeff just called me up and said to check my email. I looked, and that was his resignation letter. So I called him up like, dude, what are you doing?
Wow.
So, so a week later we started talking about, he called me up again, and he said, hey, what do you think about starting our own business? I'm like, hey, that sounds cool. And then later he calls me and says, what do you think about St. Louis? I'm like, the arts is kind of cool, I guess. I mean, I visited once. So we started kicking it around. And then my kids are grown and moved out. My son's in the Navy, so he's off. And my daughter, she was in school at the time in Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay. The
ex-wife got the house. So I packed up the trailer and
moved on
like the Beverly Hillbillies and moved away from Beverly.
Yeah, exactly.
The wrong direction.
Yeah, the right direction, buddy.
Oh, yes,
right,
yeah. Sorry. Midwest is best, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm supposed to say.
Yeah, exactly. Midwest is
All
best.
right. Now you're here. You guys started right in the middle of the pandemic. So what kind of challenges did that present to you guys?
Well, we had the great, brilliant idea of starting in March. We were supposed to get started right at mid-March.
Yeah.
So we had a training that we were doing through the franchise group, and that was in Salt Lake City. We flew into Salt Lake City. We were there. We got there on Sunday. Tuesday was when the news about COVID broke, and all of a sudden, by Friday it was a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So we were supposed to open our doors a week after that training. So everything just died on us. We weren't able, because of like some of the state offices were closed, real estate board and all that stuff. So we didn't actually get our license officially until May 26th. So we consider June 1 to be our actual opening date.
Okay.
But during all this time, we're hemorrhaging, any money that we had that was, in the business and so on, with nothing coming in. So certainly COVID changed the dynamic, because we couldn't network. We couldn't, all the faster houses things were, doing.
Everything slowed down.
Yeah, everything just kind of came to a grinding halt. So it was trying to figure out and revamp how we were going to go about it.
Yeah.
But luckily, we're out in, St. Charles County is a little bit different than in the St. Louis County and St. Louis City.
A little bit. It just disappears when you drive over the rivers.
Right. It's like it never even happened.
Yeah, exactly. So we were able to, late, I think May or so was when things started kind of opening up. So I was able to get out in the public and start, shaking babies and kissing moms, or shaking hands and kissing babies.
Yeah.
So that was the first challenge that we came across, just, because of COVID. It was just something that was totally unexpected. So
yeah, we started our business on March 1st, and that first weekend of March, we were at a conference downtown with like 300 people in the room, and like the news is coming out while we're there, like St. Louis City's getting ready to shut down. And we're like, oh man, this might have been bad timing here.
I was in,
but
like right when it happened, like when they first were like, okay, we're shutting down, this is a pandemic or whatever. I was in Arizona at a pastor's conference, and I'm on the phone with my wife. I'm like, you need to go get toilet paper. And she's like, why? I'm like, because people are ridiculous, and for whatever reason, they're all getting toilet paper. They're not buying anything other than toilet paper. Go get toilet paper.
Were you one of those people that bought up everything on the shelf?
No, I bought three packages.
Yeah.
And I knew that as this unfolded, they would start calling me and telling me that my order can't be placed. And so I called my wife, and she's a rock star, so she got over and got some toilet paper. And it was awesome. But yeah, like a lot of us weren't sure we were going to make it home.
Yeah.
Because of, they're shutting down everything. And here we are, 23 hours away from home, and 1,700 miles from home, and flights were getting delayed and stuff like that. And I'm driving home, so I was pretty sure that I was going to get home, but my peers, they weren't sure that the planes were going to be flying and all that stuff. So
strange times, man. So Mike,
awesome.
Dive in a little bit about how you got started, man.
Yeah, pass the mic, Phil.
I know, I'm a mic hog.
Yeah, mic hog.
Sorry, Mike.
Is this on?
Yeah.
Don't blow in the mic. No.
Yeah, you're good.
So I got into real estate. I don't know. It's been 5 years ago, something like that.
Started as a property manager, you said?
Yeah, started out in property management. It was funny how it happened because I was employed at a church, and the church wasn't growing, and so they started having to lay people off. And I'm like, they said, Mike, well, we want to keep you on, but we can only keep you on part-time. And I said, well, I'll stay here as a volunteer, but as far as, job is concerned, I have to be full-time employed. And so I started looking for jobs, and I ended up with a property management company. And it was one thing after another, property management. I loved it. I loved working with clients as well as tenants. And it was a lot of fun. And then they said, hey, you should get your license and start, selling houses and stuff like that too. And managing the properties. Because at first I was just a leasing agent. Yep. You don't need a license to show a property. But if you want to manage the properties and work with the clients and everything and sell them houses and buy houses.
And get the ongoing commission of the management.
Right.
Just the leasing fee and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I did. I got my license. And then I continued to manage properties for several years. And then I learned how to wholesale, and I started focusing more on that for a while.
Okay.
And then one day I got a call from Keller Williams, and me and Jake both got calls from Keller Williams, like, hey, we want to build a management wing of our company. And we thought that was interesting. And so we went and we talked with them a little bit, and Jake had future plans in mind. So he went one way, and I was like, hey, I'll do this. This sounds like fun. And so I started in building a management arm for their their
Oh,
company.
Okay.
And I said, hey, I'll give you a year of my time and then let you guys take it from there. And so I gave them a year of my time, and then from there went into full-time ministry. But now I'm an investor myself, and property management has become important to me for that aspect.
Yeah.
And I had clients calling me for almost a year after I left full-time property management. Like, I can't find good property management.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I met these guys, I was like, hey guys, like, you got to call them. Like, everyone knew how particular I was about property management and doing everything the right way and being available and communicative. And I just, for the longest time, I had no one I could recommend to them until I met these guys. So I was like, hey, if you guys ever want to partner up, like, I really appreciate how you do business.
Cool, man.
And so that kind of led to what we're doing now.
Awesome. Love it. So you said you've actually got a few rentals yourself now, right?
Yeah, a couple. Yeah.
So you're doing the full-time ministry, and you see
Mhm.
just real estate as the passive income, so you can focus on your ministry work.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So, all right. Well, guys, like, you hear about investors jumping around with property managers all the time, and everybody's always looking for greener pastures, and, there's good ones and there's bad ones. So what should all the investors out there owning rental properties be looking for if they're going to hire out property manager?
Well, I mean, the most important thing that I found, other than the general ability to get things done, is communication.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not so much that people are unwilling to answer their phone; it's that they're unable. Because by and large, property management companies, their biggest downfall is they grow faster than they can keep up with. And the reason they grow so fast is because so many of them all experience the same issues that investors are constantly not happy with their property management company. And what it is they're busy. They're crazy busy all the time. And a property manager, even though they work for a company, they pretty much run their own set of properties that they manage. Their own portfolio. And so everything is up to them. And when they grow too fast, they can no longer keep up with the workload. Investors become unhappy with the way their investments are being managed, and they want to move on. And so while it's really easy to grow a property management company, it's hard to grow efficiently if you don't know what you're doing. And so investors need to be looking for someone who's communicative and somebody who is a leader. Because if you're not a leader, not only can you not lead yourself, but you can't lead your tenants, you can't lead your clients. You don't know how to grow efficiently. You grow like this, and there's no this to catch up before you do this again.
Yeah, and that's like admin work, getting your systems ironed out and everything.
Exactly.
Like that, and how the processes are going to be handled. Because like once you hit a certain threshold, like you might need work orders to go to a different person altogether. Like right now, they might be going to you guys, but then eventually you need a maintenance guy, full staff to be able to handle those things and stuff like that. So
I mean, everything Jake's told me about being a property manager, it's not a glorious job by any means.
it's a thankless job.
Can I tell you that the reason most property managers get out of it, it's a very high turnover in property management. And the reason why most property managers, from all that I've ever talked to, and including the way I felt when I wanted to get out, was that the property manager is the scapegoat for everything. Right. They are always the one to blame in all three areas. When the tenant's not paying rent, the owner blames you. It's your fault. Yeah. When the toilet doesn't get fixed, the tenant blames you. It's your fault. And when the owner's upset about something, your boss, your broker, blames you. It's your fault. Yeah. So everything, the weight of the world is on your shoulders. And if you don't know how to manage well, and you're just like, oh, look at all this money that's coming in, because I'm gaining all these properties to manage. But yet when you can't manage them, it starts becoming an issue.
Yeah, one of the things that like stands out to me was just like the differences of how certain clients want their properties to be managed. And then like some just wanted, hey, my house is vacant, put someone in there, put a body in there. If they can fog a plate, they go in. You know what I mean? And then that leads to an eviction. And then that leads to, I don't know what you guys do, but the place where I came from, if they didn't last for 12 months, that was a free, was it turn or a free rent up is what we called it, Mike?
Oh, yeah. So
the tenant gets evicted
kind of like, some property management companies offer a guarantee that months. if the tenant they place doesn't stay for 12 months, whether they skip, whether they get evicted, then you are going to lease it up for them again for free for no commission, which I think is not fair to the property manager, because especially if the property manager did everything the right way to place the proper tenant, but that tenant just went off the deep end one day. They could have been a perfect tenant, no evictions, everything's great. You placed the perfect tenant, and for 8 months they were awesome, and then they lost their job, and now they've left, and now for some reason that's your fault, and now you have to rent it up for free.
It seems like a poor precedent to set. Like, you're almost saying, like, hey, we might screw up screening this tenant and place the wrong person, like, almost. So it's like,
well, it's a numbers
we're
game.
Offering
it's
you
bound to
insurance.
happen.
Yeah.
The more properties you end up managing, someone's going. One of your tenants are going to, even though they pass all the criteria, they're going to do something nefarious. So what's your process on that as far as like renting up a home? Do you have a guarantee, or like what do you offer?
We do have a guarantee. It's not the 12 months. I believe it is at 6 months. I could be a little bit off there, but
Sure.
Yes, we do have something in place for that. So we do our due diligence on the front end as much as you possibly can, because like you said, it's bound to happen somewhere. Regardless of whether they got a 720, 740 credit score, no evictions, and everything's perfect. Same job for 20 years, but all of a sudden, you just never know.
That's when you ask them, why are you renting? I can help you buy it.
Right.
Yeah.
But we've spent a lot of time on, like you guys were talking about previously, on our infrastructure. So because we don't want to outgrow the growth. Because we were at one of the Faster Houses meetings several months ago, and I was talking to, I can't remember his name, but in any case, he was telling us, just keep on coming here and you'll have more business than you can deal with.
Right. Yeah.
And it's true, because we get those referrals and, we start meeting people in that circle, and everybody's trying to hop around to the next best thing sort of thing.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, like going to RIAs and stuff like that, like property managers aren't really well represented in those groups.
I've noticed.
And it might just because they're kind of like too busy to go, or they could just be like, hey, I've, unfortunately made so many mistakes, like everyone knows me,
Right.
And they're kind of hiding in the wings.
Do you think it's because like so many property managers just overextended and they don't want to?
It was overextended. So I'm not trying to dog the whole industry, but here's you talked about some of the things that are hard about it, is that you have to grow to a certain level in order to make a living for yourself.
Correct.
You know what I mean? But at that point, you also have to hire out people.
Right.
So it's just this fine balance of like, all right, I'm going to take a pay cut here. I'm not paying myself as much because I need to hire like an administrative assistant.
Right.
But that's going to help me grow to the next level, and then I'm going to hire another one. You know what I mean? So
right.
It's all kind of
and that's the
tough balance.
What can be attractive in. I hear a lot of clients tell me that they prefer the smaller management companies because of what happens when they get big. But one thing that can be attractive of a larger property management company is that they have the infrastructure to get it all done. What a lot of times people don't realize, though, is when they're that large, they don't care if they lose you or not, which means they do what they want. They charge you whatever they want to charge you, no matter how crazy it is. And that becomes the issue. And so really it's about finding a good relationship with a good property management company, because you have to have the best price is not always the best deal. Meaning that just because someone's cheap doesn't mean they're not going to cost you a whole lot more money in the back end because they don't do things the right way.
Correct.
And just because someone can get it all done doesn't mean it's convenient, and that's good, because they're going to charge you an arm and a leg for everything you do, and they're going to take all your profit.
Yeah, it's make sure your money's coming in the mailbox. So so we talked a lot about the struggles in the industry and everything like that, the challenges that you have. But like as far as from the client's perspective, like what are you guys offering? What is this real property management, franchise? What do they do to help you guys, and how does that affect the client?
For the most part, the franchise, it gave us, and we didn't have to reinvent the wheel. So we were starting, instead of from the ground level, we were starting a little bit higher. So
Sure.
they gave us some like contracts, or at least templates and different things like that. So a lot of the behind the scenes things just to get it off the ground, administratively and so on. That's kind of where the franchise itself comes in. On top of that, we have a lot of backing with different issues that come up whether it be legal issues, for evictions and different things like that. There's legal stuff behind us
Oh, that's cool.
by the franchise. I mean, we have our own local attorney that we work with that deals with, a lot of the things. We were referred to a great attorney. Jeff knows her name. I don't, so I'm sorry. But Jennifer Donnelly kind of directed us to her.
Sure.
So she's been fantastic. But with the franchise, that's kind of what they offer, just kind of that little bit of a backing. So if you're a billboard or something, they're kind of standing there like this, the kickstand kind of a thing.
Gotcha.
But other than
you're
that,
selling us, man, because we're self-managing our houses right now. But there's gonna be a point where we get to, I don't know if it's 10 or 20, where it's like, all right, we gotta hand this off.
Right.
So
Probably 5. You have more than 5?
we're at 6 right now.
Yeah, we'll take care of it.
Yeah.
Well, what I was, in fact, I was talking to somebody yesterday, and it's a lady who, she and her husband own several. They own like 6 or 7, and they're still growing. But he manages them all. They're all rented right now. Everything's great. But she wants to retire, and she's like, I'm done with Missouri. I want to go overseas. So they're both from Bulgaria. So we were having that conversation. And she was saying that, maybe in the summertime is when he was looking to do that, when they were going to be going overseas. Yeah. And so I, understanding that, I get it. But my point is, and I'll with you guys as well, it's like, while he's here or while you're even thinking about it, give us one and try us out. We'll do that one, kind of let you see it and build that trust level, because that's our whole philosophy is we don't want to be the next best thing. We don't want to be the next greener grass or whatever. We want to develop that relationship, build it so that you trust us with, because this is big money. This is where your assets are. This is your mailbox money. When you're sitting in Jamaica, that's what you want. Want it to keep on coming up.
Can I touch on something real quick?
Please do.
You good? You feel better now?
The relationship is the most important thing, other than the basics. The basics are they need to be communicative, your manager, and they need to have the ability to get it done. Yeah. But the reason the relationship is so important is because someone's going to drop the ball sooner or later. We're all flawed. None of us are perfect. We're all human, right? And so if the relationship is there, that makes the manager feel comfortable enough to say, hey, before this becomes a big deal, I screwed up. Don't worry, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to take care of everything. I'm going to take responsibility for it. And because otherwise what happens with property managers is they're afraid of their clients because they don't have good relationships. And when you're afraid of the client, you either A, hide the problem until it becomes something you can't hide anymore, or B, you waste the client's money trying to fix the problem, hoping they don't find out or whatever, or you're lying to them about what really happened. But a good relationship means that the client is going to understand when things happen, and the property manager is going to they're going to be more willing to own the mistake. They should own the mistake regardless, but it's a better relationship and everybody's more happy. And when people are happy, investment is good.
Well, I imagine every property owner wants to be communicated with differently. Some people might want to call every week, or don't bug me unless it's over $1,000 fixed or something like that. So do you try to set expectations up front with like, here's how much I'm going to plan on contacting you? It's going to be text or email or like whatever it might be.
What we like to do is because owners are different, everybody has their own methods and techniques. Some of them will say, a couple of them have said, here it is, la, 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 do what you got to do. And, with the transparency with, our, the portals and different things that we provide and the reporting on a monthly basis, everything works good. But when I'm talking to somebody, trying to bring somebody on, the whole point is like, you're the owner, we work together. So from the beginning, you might want me to call you once a week or something. We'll do that. As we get through a couple of months, you'll be like, you know what, every couple of weeks. And so that's our whole idea. That's the philosophy behind us, is that we're developing that relationship. So we're trying to build and establish trust so that going forward, you feel more and more comfortable you can grow yourself, buy more properties because you know that you have a trust relationship backing you up. And like Mike said, we're willing to call you and say, I kind of screwed the pooch on this one. So, we'll do this, or this is what how we're going to fix it. But that's the whole idea behind us. So a lot of times, up front, you want to have, a full $1,000 or something like that in your side account or whatever, so that that's where you pull your repairs and all that stuff from. So we work with people. It's like, look, you can put whatever, put it in there, and then if you want us to call you everything over $100, we'll do that to start with. Some of them are going to say $500. So we like to have that as a conversation, as opposed to us saying, here's the law, and take it or leave it type of a thing.
Sure.
So
management agreements are, they're
negotiable.
Yeah, they're negotiable. Like you send over a basic management agreement, and I would tell everyone, hey, if there's something in here that you have a question about or you don't like, call me. Chances are, it's we can change that. There's some things that are, hey, this is how we run our business, but a lot of those things are, they're all up to suit the needs of the client. Like he said, do you want us to call you when we spend $100, or do you want us to call you before we spend $500? And that's a difference. But the relationship is so important for so many reasons. If you don't trust your property manager, now all you're going to do is keep managing your manager all the time, and now your passive income is not passive; it's fully active all the time.
The manager becomes like the tenant.
Yeah,
and you got to keep
almost,
from the client's perspective.
I mean, I love the idea of these systems you're talking about, getting a report monthly. It sounds like just having it right there, and like, yep.
What software do you guys use?
we use AppFolio.
Yep.
Like Jake was screening a potential tenant we had the other day, and a red flag popped up for a possible eviction. So he's calling on it, and the property manager sends him like a screenshot of a bunch of notes they had scribbled on a piece of paper.
Yeah, I sent the release form, with the guy's permission on there, and she just printed it out and just wrote notes and sent it back to me. I was just like, okay. Didn't answer all my questions. Thanks a lot, lady.
So,
one little thing that is that I always did, and I think you guys do it too, is when you're screening a tenant and say, evictions don't pop up. Sometimes evictions only going to pop up in Missouri, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so checking, or if they're currently in an eviction, it's not going to pop up right now. So checking online for St. Louis County, St. Louis City, checking their database to see if there's any open evictions right now, and just things like that too, going the extra mile. Because placing the tenant is
so outside of CaseNet, which is what I use. I'm sure most people use. Where do you go?
Yeah, CaseNet.
Just CaseNet. And
yeah,
they'll have open.
CaseNet. We like to invade all their privacies by stalking their Facebook and stuff like that.
Yeah,
if they're doing illegal acts on their Facebook profile pics.
Yeah. So that's exactly kind of the red flag. So I was actually ready to approve this guy because credit score was actually pretty decent, like just south of 600, but for as a tenant is concerned, that's pretty good. Not too bad in debt to income ratio. The biggest thing on there was, I think, student loans, but that's, pretty predictable. Good income other than that. And good rental history, so to speak. Like each thing was like a year, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, no evictions here because each one's a year. Well, I was like, all right, well, I guess I better just do my due diligence and go check CaseNet, just on the off chance. And I was like, son of a bitch. So I did things out of order, you know what I mean? So, right.
Yeah. Also, too, bankruptcies that aren't closed yet.
Yeah.
Those won't show up on background checks, credit checks. You'll see those in CaseNet and stuff like that. There's an open bankruptcy because if they haven't closed their bankruptcy yet, they can include their lease contract in the bankruptcy.
I did not know that. Good to know.
Yes, that's pro tip, guys. Pro tip. So right now, there's a lot of people that probably had eviction filed against them because they lost their job due to COVID. Mm-hmm. And it's we had this situation pop up. I mean, these people in this situation I'm talking about, they didn't even know they were evicted.
Okay.
And I couldn't approve them. I looked them up on CaseNet and I was like, hey, I'm sorry, you're being evicted right now. I can't approve you. And they're like, what? And so this is just a general question as meeting on the vines thing. What are we going to do as landlords and property managers moving forward when you're going to have such a large pool of people who are going to have an eviction on them, but a good majority of them, they couldn't, they couldn't help it.
That's a great question. I don't know.
This is an open-ended question. There's no right or wrong answer here. You know what I mean?
Well, we're about to buy a property next month with a non-paying tenant, and she's been asked to leave, and she says she's going to fight it. I think people are just well, you can't evict me right now. I'm just going to hang
Right.
out.
Right.
I mean, I think it's going to get lifted in a couple weeks now. It's
I think attitude
Yeah.
has everything to do with it. As a pastor, I approach everything in love, right? And so if there's anything that I can do to help somebody, if I have the means and the ability to help somebody. So say I'm an investor and I have a tenant in my home that legit lost their job, and I can afford to help them get through this problem, and they are going to do everything they can. Like, for instance, when they get their stimulus money and it comes in and they say, hey, Mike, I can give you like 80% of the stimulus money. Okay, great. That sounds like a plan. And as long as they follow through, it's
Pull back
my
on the
job.
bargain.
Yeah, it's my job as a person who is able to love them and help them as much as I can. But if they're like, y'all can't touch me, then you got to go.
Well,
right?
There's means for assistance out there too. Like, show me you're making an attempt to.
Right.
And as a business owner, an investor is a business owner. It's my job to help myself by saying, hey, did you know there's this, and this out here?
Right.
I've done some research for my tenants so that I can keep receiving income.
Yeah.
And as a property manager, we need to have those resources to say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Client, there are resources right now that can help your tenants, and we're going to present those to them as long as they're willing to fight to stay in their home for the right reasons. I recommend that you let us help them so that it helps you, because an empty house or a non-paying tenant isn't helping you at all.
Yeah.
So I think if a tenant is willing to help themselves, then you should absolutely do everything you can. But it's a business. If you are not in a financial place to help your tenant, you have to make that difficult decision.
Yeah.
I think much like COVID has taught us, we were all doing business on this particular plane, and all of a sudden everything got all screwed up. So everybody, the creative ideas started coming out, and now, everybody's on Zoom and doing different things, their business completely differently. So the industry is going to start adapting to that. So now we have to find those creative ways, like, cash for keys, or, different payment programs, and like, okay, I might have to eat it a little bit for a little while and nibble at it, an extra $50 or $100 a month, just so I don't have to deal with having to turn over another property. And it's going to cost me, because it's all about the cost and turning stuff over. And if you have somebody that's in there, there are some things that you don't have to do to keep them there. But if they leave,
more the turnover or
the lack of cash flow.
lack of
correct.
cash flow.
Yeah.
So it's just a creative thing that I think we're all gonna have. We're these meetings of the minds are gonna start finding those little things that we can all do that are gonna fix those problems. So
Exactly.
And it has to be honorable, because what you're doing has to be honorable. But if you expect your tenants to honor you, you have to honor them. And as long as they keep their promises, then that's a good sign. So when it comes to evictions, if a tenant calls me, and I try and build great relationships with every single tenant that I place, so that I know they're not going to avoid me until the 17th, because guess what happens on the 15th? We file for eviction because we haven't heard from them, right? But when somebody calls me on the 3rd and says, Mike, man, I'm going to be late, it's going to be the 12th before I can pay you. Okay, great. As long as I see you on the 12th, we're cool, right? And if they come in on the 12th, then that's okay, right? Because I've had somebody ask me before, well, Mike, you're a pastor. Are you just going to love everyone to death and like let me lose all my money? I'm like, no, absolutely not. Because I believe in someone's word, and just because I was vulnerable and someone tried to take advantage of that, once I see that they're taking advantage of that, I'm going to keep my word, and I'm going to do everything I said I was going to do if they didn't make their rent. And so really it's just about honor and trust in those relationships.
Absolutely.
And if you have a manager who is building great relationships with the tenants, that makes all the difference in the world. Because the average tenant stays less than 2 years. How do you stay 18 months? I don't know. But the average overall is they stay 2 years or less. And there's two reasons why they leave. A, they don't like the house they live in because you put lipstick on a pig and didn't do anything the right way. Or they don't like the management company because they never fix things. They don't ever answer the phone.
Yeah.
And they're just tired of, they're tired of that situation. So the relationship makes all the difference.
I always say, like, because every house that we've rented up so far is just freshly rehabbed. And I always tell the tenants, I'm like, hey, look, first 30 days, something's going to happen. I don't know what it is. A pipe might leak, something might back up. I don't know. We're going to take care of it. Expect it to happen. We'll be right. Like, we'll get on it. We're not going to leave you hanging dry there. And it's so funny because like someone will text me or kind of like send me little smiley face emojis like, yep, you're right. Hey, tub
There it
isn't
is.
draining quick enough, or like, hey, there's a leak under the sink. Just 2-point
Got to
examples.
break the house.
Things you don't know
Yeah.
until someone lives.
Yeah,
there.
exactly. And we tell them, and every one of them is like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Mhm.
You know?
You can see the window's broken, but you can't see
Yeah.
that there was a crack in a pipe somewhere.
Exactly,
or
yeah.
It was clogged or something like that.
I was like, you know, we made sure we passed municipal inspection, so it all checks out from the safety aspect, but you just don't know that these things are going to happen until someone lives there. Telling a tenant that and then following up with like, hey, this is how we're going to respond.
Mhm.
It just, you don't.
disarms everything.
It disarms everything. You set a good relationship, and you avoid the thing that every landlord hates, property manager hates, is you avoid the tenant from holding your rent hostage.
Right.
That is the biggest pain in the butt for everybody. It's horrible.
Is that what you guys have seen a lot of? You know,
I
hey, you need to
educate-
fix this before I pay your rent. Like,
I educate every single tenant. Every single one gets an education on how to properly withhold rent. So don't worry.
That's a good point.
I am not teaching them
No.
how to withhold their rent. What I'm teaching them is you can't not pay your rent because we didn't fix the toilet.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I teach them the only way to properly withhold rent is to pay it to a third party holding company.
Yep.
Because you have to show proof that you have paid the rent. You have the rent and you've paid it.
Yep.
And then the management company or the owner, the investor, has to fix the problem, and then the third party company releases the rent to them. So you can't not pay your rent. That is a wives' tale, and it's very underexplained. And so they think, well, I'm just not paying my rent, or if I don't have my rent, I'm going to complain of something being broken so that I don't have to pay rent.
Yeah.
You absolutely have to pay your rent. You just don't have to pay it to the management company until they fix it. You have to pay it to a third party.
So yeah, I tell the tenants like, and we're small, so this is why I can get away with this. I was like, text me the issue and send me a photo or a video of it, and that will protect you too, not just me. So that way you hold me accountable, because if it ever goes to the point where you're going from a judge and you show them that stuff with the date and everything, guess who's looking bad for not getting it done? It's me, not you. So it's going to protect you too. So
what's the third party company that you'd get involved?
I don't know an agency, but I know there's you do want to put into an escrow.
A lawyer?
Yeah, it has to go into an escrow. You can call, some title companies may do it. They may charge a fee. Usually they'll charge a fee for that.
So nobody's going to want to do that. There's
Yeah,
more money.
right.
involved.
No one. I don't know that anyone ever in the history of ever has actually done that. In most of the time, because things work themselves out before it goes that far anyway. But because what happens is a lot of times you have tenants that use that as an excuse to get a little extra time to pay the rent, and then somebody ends up getting evicted. And the judge will say, "Hey, where is the rent? Do you have it?" Well, no, I don't have it. Can you pay it right now? No, I spent it, or whatever.
Yeah.
But if it's sitting in an escrow company that says, yeah, it's waiting for them to take it, all they have to do is fix it, the judge is going to go, okay, and they're going to rule in favor of the tenant.
Yep.
Yeah. But
Phil, tell me a little bit about your partnership with you said Jeff. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So how you guys dividing up roles in your business?
Yeah, you said something about you being a sales guy and he'd be more operations. So I'm guessing it has something to do with that.
yes.
Well, he looks better than
it's unfortunate and sad that I'm the spokesmodel. This mug is the spokesmodel, but we do the best we can.
It's all right.
It's
Um,
really wide.
You got a nice watch.
That's what it is.
It's not
No, Jeff has always been, when I was managing the location. We had a huge site where we were running trucks out of there and so on back in California.
Yeah.
So I was running it first, and then Jeff transferred over because his wife had come over to Northern California. She was stationed there. So he took it over and I went out to outside sales. So that's where we met. And then during that time, I had to run all my sales and so on through Jeff. And so we worked well. We figured out that we worked well together. And, I was doing this side, he was doing that side. And Jeff took the location well beyond where I had taken it, when I was running it. So, he was obviously better at doing that sort of thing. So when we started talking about our partnership, that was the whole idea. Jeff does not like large crowds. You've seen me at the Faster Houses thing. He will not take that microphone. So he's all, no, I'll pass. That's just, that's just not his thing.
Sure.
Me, you hand me a microphone and a alcoholic beverage or something, and I'll do pretty much anything. And it doesn't even take the alcoholic beverage most of the time. But that's just how we work well together, and we figured out each other's strengths a long time ago. So I know, because I can totally trust, when Jeff, he's setting up, our infrastructure, like we talked about, our systems.
Yeah.
Jeff is on that. He's all over it. And I know that, that's what he's doing. I don't have to worry about it. I can come out here. That's the whole thing for me, is being out in front of people trying to sell our product. I know that I've got, I can trust, and I'm confident in the fact that what I'm telling people, Jeff's got under control. I can hand it to him, and Jeff's got the system in place, and so on. And he knows that when I leave in the mornings or so on, he knows I'm out here doing everything I can, pounding the pavement, beating the bushes, talking to as many people as I can. So that's just how our partnership works.
So you already started this new business with that trust in each other, which is huge.
Correct. Yeah.
And so did you it sounds like you kind of slid right back into the same roles, just new business.
Mm-hmm.
And did you learn anything new about each other trying to start a brand new thing, or?
I don't know that we learned anything new about each other, but we solidified some things. So when I came out here, I came out here with a 5x8 trailer. I had sold everything, dumped everything off. I mean, literally, I sat there in my driveway in California looking at this trailer, and I'm like, man, that's my whole life right there.
Wow.
And it was like a couple boxes of clothes, 2 guitars, and a couple shovels. For some reason, I thought the shovels were important to bring with me, but
It's Missouri. You have to dig somewhere, right?
Right.
Well, that way, if Jeff doesn't work out,
yeah, I could dig a small grave or a shallow grave somewhere.
Is that a
but-
short joke?
Yes. No, just so yeah, we just kind of solidified the things that we knew about each other, and it's worked great over the last year that we've been doing this, because we have hit those times when we were looking at each other like, dude, we might have to bail here, because we were there were some
Cash flow issues.
Yeah, there were certainly some issues. So but we were able to, between the two of us, we kind of, put the heads together and continued on the path because we kind of felt confident about where we were going and what we were trying to accomplish.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
That's one of the reasons I like them so much, is because the character is there. Both of their characters are just, phenomenal, and they're not jaded by the business.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a lot of times somebody will say, well, how much experience do you have managing properties? And it's not necessarily, because that's kind of where I come in. I can help them with those things. But it's really not necessarily about that. It's there is an aspect there you have to have, and they have that, and that's why the great the RPM that backs them up for those things, that knows all those things, and then to have someone like me that can say, hey, this is my experience. I've been doing this for a while, but really it's about the character, that your investments are in good hands.
Yeah.
And because you have property managers that are so jaded by the industry that all owners are the same. They're all cheap. They don't want to fix nothing. All tenants are the same. They never pay their rent, and they treat the tenants that way. And so the tenants hate them, right? And then they treat the investor that way. And now the investor hates them. And that's why turnover is so crazy high for both the investor, the property manager, and the tenants, is because the character and the business ethic is not there. And that's why, it took me forever to finally find these guys that I would willing to trust. The clients that I used to manage for that trusted me, I can now have a name that says, hey, these are finally the guys that I found that you can trust.
No, I can tell the characters there, and you guys sound like a great team. It's just, I don't know why, I've never thought about this, but like, we work with a lot of tired landlords. People
In which regard? When we buy houses?
when we're buying houses,
Okay. Or
these
the
are usually
tired
people that might own between 10, 12, 15 houses that owned over 20 years, and they're just done.
Mm-hmm.
And they're, like you said, jaded by the whole process. And I've never thought about that with property managers, though. Like, there's a lot of tired property managers out there.
Dude,
like,
it's
that have been doing it for a long time.
like I said, they're always to blame for everything.
Yeah.
The whole weight of the world rests on their shoulders, between their broker that they work for, the client that they manage for, and the tenant that they.
Everything you've hit on, man. Like, I think that eliminates a lot of that: the communication, the leadership, the transparency.
Yep.
If you have those strong morals, then I think you'll be fine in the long run.
Yeah, and to add on what you said, like, there are times where it's for sure your fault, right? And you have to take ownership of that. But there are some things that are just outside of your control.
Right.
You'd have to have a crystal ball to know something was going to happen. Yeah. And let's say the point of like, hey, this repair needs to get done. I don't have anybody that can get to it for like 2 weeks, like nowhere. And you're mad at me, client, tenant, and I don't like it either. That adds to the jadedness, and that adds to like the, for people to understand why it can't get done right away. They're going to blame you for that.
Right.
And that's why leadership is so important, because as the manager, or was the manager, when I have to have a difficult conversation with my client is my boss. I have to lead up to them, right? I have to be able to lead up. It's easy to lead, well, figuratively, it's easy to lead those who follow you. It's not easy to lead those who don't follow you, right? So I have to lead the tenant. I have to lead up to my client, and I have to lead sideways to those who help me manage the properties. The management company, like the admin. I need the admin's help. The admin is not underneath me, nor are they above me, but I have to lead them well so that they are willing to help me manage these properties.
Yeah, collaborative relationship.
Yeah, there's been times where I've had to let a client go because I could not lead them, whether it was my fault or their fault. And the relationship just wasn't working out.
Yeah.
That's, again, why the relationship's so important. Yep. And leadership is so important.
Yeah.
Well, guys, you've definitely shined a light on this whole side of the business for me. So learned a lot from you guys today. So thanks for coming on. We're running up on time here, but real quick, did you say, Phil, what do you guys charge for your management fees? Is it a percent of the rent, or is it a flat fee, or what do you guys do?
We used to do, and a lot of people do, different tiers and different things like that. We found that we stopped doing that because everybody wants to negotiate. I got 10 properties, so I want you to do it for 2%. So what we did is we locked our exactly.
I have 10 properties. I'd like you to lose money.
So we went with just an 8%, and that's our management fee that covers the whole shebang. We have a $75 minimum. Just because anything under that, we're just there's nothing there for us,
Right.
But yeah, the 8% is our standard management fee. There are some other goofy things that we cover with everybody, but those are add-ons or subtractions and so on. So,
And do you guys cover any kind of property, single family, multis, or?
Yes,
Yeah.
we have single family residence right now. Standalone homes. We've got condos. We have an apartment that one of our investors that we work with, he's getting ready to buy.
Yeah.
So we went with him and did a walkthrough with it and checked everything out, and let him know that we can get this thing rented for you.
Okay.
So yeah, we do the whole boot.
Do you guys charge the first month's rent for the leasing fee?
Yes.
Yeah,
So yeah, nothing coming out first, and then because it's all on our performance, so we don't get paid until we put somebody in there.
Yeah.
So that drives us to really push to get the right person and somebody in there quickly. So.
Yep.
Cool, man. Well, for anybody listening and wants to give you guys a try, where can they find you at, man?
You can find us on www.rpm3bridges.com. The 3 is spelled out, so THREE.
Okay.
You can call us at 636-542-8852. What was that number again?
542-8852.
That's 636-542-8852.
All right. We'll make sure we got it in the show notes for anybody who wants to give you guys a shout. And,
awesome.
Really good meeting you guys. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for your time, man. I appreciate you guys having us.
All right, man.
All right.
Sayonara.
Till next time.